Hi, Ben Page here with Blend, and welcome back to our 7-part video series on growing revenue through direct bookings. We're really excited to continue the series, and today we're in part 3 where I'll share with you how to use search marketing to maximize your direct booking revenue. So let's jump in. As a reminder, why direct bookings? Well, on the highest level, we know that they're super important for tour, activity, and attraction companies. But specifically, direct bookings are better for your brand because they give you full control over your brand's impact on the customer and that customer relationship versus handing off or relying on a third party to manage and own that relationship for you. So, in today's session, we will cover 3 main things. One, we're going to build on the content from the prior sessions where we did some competitive analysis, we did some review of your performance and search demand. And we're going to take that in this session and really learn some frameworks to prioritizing opportunities. In most cases, there are more opportunities and experiments and things to try to drive direct bookings than any operator or team can effectively execute on. And that means we need to set them in order of potential impact. So the second thing we'll cover today is paid search direct booking strategy. So one pillar of search engine marketing. And the third thing is organic search direct booking strategy. So let's go ahead and get started with how to prioritize the opportunities that you may have uncovered in the prior sessions. So in part 2, we did cover consumer behavior, search demand, as well as the intent of the user as demonstrated by the search that they did. And we talked about different tools, many of them free and available and accessible to get this insight. We talked about the competitive landscape from a search perspective, and we talked about your performance to date. And we're going to transmute that, those insights into actions. So on the very highest level, economics are what unlock acquisition. And what I mean by that is that the quality of your gross profit margin, the amount of the average order value, and the conversion rate on your website are 3 of the major unlocks. Ultimately, the person that or advertiser or business competing for a potential traveler in your space, the one that can pay the most to acquire that customer will win. And their ability to pay for that customer is determined by these economics. And so the principles are to become more efficient at turning website visitors into bookers, to increase the average order value of each guest, and to build and optimize a product that generates enough profit to fuel acquisition and growth. Also, looking at the channel level, we need to do some prioritization. We can do this on the channel level by looking at which channels our ideal customers live on and concentrating resources on optimizing for those channels. And we can do it on tactics within channels. But ultimately, again, we need to prioritize our focus on the channels that are best for us. So when it comes down to it, how do you do that prioritization? Well, I'm going to propose a framework called ICE that is sometimes used in different marketing disciplines. So ICE is an acronym that stands for Impact, Confidence, and Ease. And it's an easy tool to get a gut check on how to prioritize channels and tactics within channels. So I'll explain each one. First is impact. If this succeeds, how large of an effect will it have? And we could frame this in terms of how many customers, how many sales could we hope to achieve if this channel, if this tactic worked for us. The second point is confidence. How confident are we that we can achieve that effect size of impact if we make the appropriate investments in time and resources? And third is ease. If we've identified the scope of the opportunity, if we're fairly confident that given the right amount of investment, how easy, how many, and how much resources will it require to bring about? What you do is you assign a score for I, C, and E to the opportunity. And it's a 1 to 10 scale, with 10 being kind of the maximum and 1 being the minimum. And you can add or multiply those numbers together to come out with an ICE score at the end. And if you stack up, say you do this in a spreadsheet and you're looking at multiple marketing channels for acquisition and sales, and maybe you are not running on Google Ads, or you're thinking about TikTok, you're thinking about a new initiative based on the insights that you gained. Maybe you saw a particular audience segment that stood out for you that's converting well on the site. You can form a hypothesis and assign at least a somewhat data-informed score, ICE score, to that opportunity. And so you list out in a spreadsheet the different rows, and finally you have a way to sort these opportunities by their ICE score number. Another idea I'd like to share with you, though, this is a somewhat alternate approach to ICE, which is more of a growth marketing framework. Another framework is sometimes it's called land and expand. But the idea is that we're going to build a core presence or a focus on a channel that has the highest conversion potential and highest intent targeting. And we're going to expand it outward and as we do that, we increase the volume, we increase the potential reach, but we lower the intent. So the friction increases and the difficulty in converting the user as the intent becomes less and less clear and focused. There's an optimization that can take place there. Now that we've talked about two different frameworks to think about prioritizing at the highest levels, both channels and tactics, I want to talk about paid search direct booking strategy specifically. So in paid search, I recommend, and when I say paid search, I'm talking specifically about pay-per-click advertising. I'm also talking about the other tools and sort of channels and networks available within Google Ads and Microsoft Ads. So here, I would recommend, if you haven't run pay-per-click advertising before, maximize spend on high intent targeting. Start with the keywords and the retargeting efforts that have the highest conversion potential for you, and clean up the low-hanging fruit opportunities before moving on to things like prospecting for new potential bookers. But even if you're running Google Ads today, I mean, there are three sort of levers you can pull pretty quickly. So let's say as part of that last video in the series, you went through your Google Ads account, and you've identified, or maybe even on the organic side, you've identified a number of kind of transactional type keywords, commercial intent keywords that you're doing reasonably well on today. They're generating sales. They're, you think, profitable. The three levers that you can pull are: A, you can increase your daily budgets. B, you can have more aggressive bidding. And I'll talk about expanding on this strategy in the next slide. But ultimately, it's about maximizing your impression share. And so impression share is a metric, is actually a column in Google Ads that you can enable if you go to customize columns. You can choose this, and there are a number of different impression share related metrics in Google Ads. There's one called top impression share, which means how frequently did my ad show in the top 4 ad positions, divided by the amount of times that I would have been eligible to show in those top positions. There's a separate metric in Google Ads. It's called absolute top impression share, and that is tied specifically to the number 1 ad position. So there is a slight difference. But regardless, you can look at impression share more generally too. And the whole point here is that you want to maximize your impression share for those keywords and audiences and campaigns that are already working. And so when you look at impression share, there's another set of related metrics that tell you why you're losing impression share. Are you losing impression share due to having a limited budget, or due to rank is what it's called. Within rank, there are a few other factors that go in there. It could be quality score, it could be your bid, it could be the impact of your ad extensions. So what I recommend is, if you go in your Google Ads account, you've got keywords that are working today, you look at your impression share, and maybe you're losing 10% of impression share due to budget. Well, guess what? Your next move should be to increase your daily budget by some amount up to that 10% incremental level as a starting point, and then let that run for a period of time, a day, a week, depends on the volume that you have in your ad account, and then determine if that additional budget is effective in driving more sales and a return on ad spend that works for your business. Once you've taken care of that, which is the low-hanging fruit, you then can get into things like more aggressive bidding strategies. So if you're using manual bidding, this looks like increasing your maximum cost per click bid on a given keyword. If you're using smart bidding strategies, you can choose or select a more aggressive bidding strategy. So you could do things like change the return on ad spend target in order to encourage higher bids and increase delivery, or you could choose an entire strategy or type of bidding approach, going from a target cost per acquisition, or you're trying to target a certain cost per sale amount, going from that to something like a maximized conversion strategy. There are many different tests you could run in this area. You can also go to work on the relevance side of your targeting, your ads, your landing pages, and that could improve and unlock some of the delivery as well. So that was a lot of the tactics within the Google Ads and kind of search side. What do you do though? It's like you've doubled down on budgets on what's working. You've maybe scaled up your bids a little bit on those keywords. You're getting more impressions, you're getting more sales, but you've really got in that land and expand framework, you've got such a strong core that you need to start kind of prospecting outside the scope of that paid search area. What can you do? Well, a few things. One, in the paid search area, you could identify new keyword targets or match types. So if you've been more conservative in your match types before, you could try more phrase match or possibly even broad match keyword targeting. But usually more of an opportunity is identifying new pockets of keywords that are maybe related that you haven't tried before. And in our space, what this looks like in practice is going from targeting zipline tours location to outdoor activities near me or something like that. The second way to widen the net is to target new audiences. And you can do this on display, on Discover, YouTube, building either additional segments that you're going after that are perhaps more broad, or trying new kinds of audience targeting that you haven't tried before. So maybe you've run remarketing to anyone that's been to your site. Great. You could do a few things. I mean, you could Try to target managed placement sites. Maybe in your Google Analytics review from the last video, you identified a few referral traffic sources that have performed well for you. They've sent you traffic and that traffic has converted on your website. Maybe you could target those websites on the Google Display Network and have your ads show up on that site and accelerate the volume that you can get from that referral partner. Maybe you could try contextual targeting, or topic-based or in-market for trips to destination where your activity happens to be. And third is new campaign types. Google continues to innovate on the product side, and not all advertising products are the right fit for every advertiser. However, I believe that most of them are probably worth a test if you have identified the kinds of targeting and creative that can work well for you. And if you do that, you're somewhat de-risking a controlled trial of a new campaign type. So you might consider a few things. You might consider local ads, or discover campaigns, or you might try Performance Max, which is a new campaign type with machine learning enabled that delivers across different Google properties at scale. I would recommend that you try local ads, if no other campaign type, because you can drive visibility in the map pack, and that is one place that OTAs cannot be. You can optimize these campaigns for calls and direction requests. And the third reason to try them is because you have a unique opportunity to be probably in the early half of advertisers using this product. And not only that, but you could show up in the map pack in addition to your other advertisements and organic placements. So it's extremely powerful as a tool. Here's an example of a local ad in the search results. You can see that the ads often show above the organic results in the map pack, which is similar to the phenomenon that happens with paid and organic search already. So let's shift gears a little bit to that other pillar of search engine marketing and talk about an organic search direct booking strategy that you can execute on. So number one, again, on the organic side, is get into the local pack. I can't tell you enough how important this is to your playbook, because for any local-based tour, attraction, activity company, I've seen again and again cases where if you look at the top drivers of organic traffic and leads, that the Google My Business result leads the pack. And maybe you saw this yourself as you dug into Search Console, Google Analytics, and your Google My Business data from the last video. But ultimately, we see that 46% of searches are local. Again, OTAs can't be here. Local traffic converts because they have that near me or a location plus an activity kind of search. And oftentimes this map pack is served up at the top of the results on mobile when someone has a location-based search. So it kind of gets preferential treatment as a feature in the search results page, which gives it an unusual level of power. So the end result you're trying to achieve is that you want to be organically number one in the map pack for keywords related to your business. You want to have a local ad so that you have an additional listing in that map pack, and you want to show up in the paid and organic search results alongside this so that you get kind of a stacking up of results effect. Go after low-hanging SEO fruit. And these are some of the top 3 ways you can do that. So in the last video, as part of that exercise, you looked at your top landing pages, and you looked at some of the keywords you're ranking for, and you looked at some of the search queries that are mapping and causing those different pages to show up. So the first low-hanging fruit is to identify the keywords where you're already ranking relatively well, and then to optimize your website to improve your rankings further. So in this example, I'm looking at SEMrush, and I've got, say, the state of Tennessee mobile devices. And this debiases the search. It takes out the personalization, the search history, and the location that you're searching from, and all those things. And it's sort of like an objective view of the search results in Tennessee on a mobile device. And what you can do here is we're tracking keywords and we're looking at our positions. And then you can also see which of your pages is the one that's visible for that keyword in that search result in that place. And so here it's, again, we're looking for those low-hanging fruit opportunities, position 5 through position, maybe second page or so, 15, call it. Because it's often easier to go from number 15 to number 9 than it is to go from not ranking at all to ranking in some way, especially for a competitive commercial intent keyword. The second low-hanging SEO fruit is to identify keyword topics that have relevant search volume but relatively low competition. And there are a few ways that you can do this keyword research, but one interesting way to start is to use some kind of seed list of keywords. And then you can use a tool like Google Ads Keyword Planner or SEMrush to get back a list of monthly search volume for that keyword, as well as a competition score. And in general, we're looking for a relevant keyword with a reasonable number of monthly average searches and a relatively low level of competition. In SEMrush, this would look like a keyword difficulty of, say, 30 and below. And in other tools, usually like in Google Ads Keyword Planner, the level of competition is from 0 to 1 or 0 to 100, sometimes expressed as a decimal. So again, you want to look kind of in that lower third range for opportunities. And so usually these are small gems. And sometimes you can find the gems by doing this organic research and looking at the search queries in Google Search Console that you're visible for by visiting the performance report, drilling down to a particular page, or just going right to the queries report and then using kind of a longer term view and sorting by impressions descending. Then you can kind of map that in Google Analytics. But ultimately, you might discover certain search queries that you hadn't even fathomed before, and those would be good ones to run into SEMrush or Keyword Planner to get this data back. And once you do, you've identified those, then you can start to optimize the landing pages on your site or build a new piece of content if you don't have any suitable content now that could be optimized for that topic. And that would be a way to start to build a foothold in a higher search volume, lower competition area. The third one is optimizing existing pages for click-through rate. So in the search results, organically, your appearance is effectively your metadata, right? It's got your URL, it's got your meta title or your title tag, and your meta description. And so what you want to do is you want to look at your top landing pages, look at the queries that they're showing up for, and find, again, kind of do that prioritization, right? And find the ones that you're most relevant for. If you rewrite your title tags using more natural language or incorporating those keyword phrases or injecting kind of your unique selling proposition, what sets you apart in the space, giving that person, the what's in it for me or the reason to believe within this metadata, you could improve your click-through rate significantly. And the value of doing so is potentially huge. So let's say you did this for your top 5 landing pages and you got your click-through rate on average from 5 to 7%. Well, these gains can stack up significantly over time. And the good news is that you can run these as experiments. You could look at your performance in terms of click-through rate by page for some historical period. You could think up an experiment of updating your meta title and description. You could implement it and then look back a month later and then compare period over period how much better your click-through rate was, or perhaps it was harmful. But in any event, you can run this scientifically and the gains will compound over time. So to wrap up, we covered a few frameworks on how to prioritize opportunities once you've gathered all of your intelligence, and how to think about channel planning and tactic planning. In a sense, we talked about reducing risk for customer acquisition. And then we went into paid and organic killer approaches and low-hanging fruits to maximize your direct bookings using search marketing. And it's really been my pleasure to share this with you. And I hope that you'll reach out to us if you have any questions. We're happy to help. Stay tuned. Next time is part 4, building an actionable social media plan. And that's going to help you to activate on another channel and outside of search and scale there as well. So thank you for watching.